Have you ever sat across from someone you've known for years and suddenly you're both in the same room but living in completely different emotional timelines? They're talking, same familiar voice, same familiar gestures, same laugh that once felt like home, but something inside you has quietly taken a step back. It's subtle, elegant, polite, but unmistakable. It's that soft internal shift when your spirit whispers, "We're not aligned anymore." Not because they hurt you, not because they failed you, not because something quote unquote happened, but because nothing did. And your soul outgrew what your mind stayed loyal to. Right there. That's adulthood. That's growth. That's the quiet goodbye. Before we go deeper, let me say this with all the gentleness and clarity possible. There is absolutely nothing wrong with this change. You're not dramatic, you're not cold, you're not ungrateful, you're not switching up, you're not breaking anything on purpose. You're evolving quietly, naturally, beautifully. So, if you've been feeling this, if you've been feeling distance where closeness used to live, you're not crazy. You're not heartless. You're human and humans grow. Welcome back to the GB. This is episode 3, The Quiet Goodbye, where impossible is just an opinion and every ending, even the quiet ones, deserves to be understood. Today, I'm giving you the full breakdown, the psychology, the neuroscience, the emotional intelligence, all of it. We're going to dive deep into why your spirit drifts before your mind does, why your nervous system predicts the goodbye first, what emotional adulthood actually feels like, how identity shifts reshape relationships, how your brain literally unfollows people before you do, why guilt shows up, especially for women, and how to honor quiet endings without burning bridges or burning yourself out. By the time we finish, you'll understand exactly why quiet goodbyes happen and why they are proof you're becoming someone extraordinary. This episode is going to change how you see endings. By the end, you won't blame yourself, you won't judge yourself, you won't feel guilty for evolving. You won't mistake peace for pettiness. You won't keep forcing relationships your spirit has already graduated from. You'll learn how to navigate endings with elegance, clarity, and emotional maturity. So by the time we're done, you'll walk away knowing this: quiet endings aren't a sign of failure, they're a sign of growth. They're the doorway into your next chapter. And you're ready for that chapter. Let's begin. One of the most surprising things about quiet goodbyes is where they begin, not in the mind, but in the body. Your body feels the ending before your words ever catch up. This is called interception. Your body's ability to sense internal emotional shifts before your brain finds the language for them. Research shows your nervous system can detect emotional misalignment 7 to 10 seconds before your conscious mind realizes something is off. That's why you'll notice things like your breathing changes around them. Your shoulders suddenly tighten when their name pops up. Your voice softens or even goes flat. You respond slower. You no longer feel the urge to vent or share. You just feel off. And you can't explain why. On paper, nothing is wrong, but your body is whispering, "We're done here. This doesn't feel safe anymore. This doesn't fit who we are now." Neuroscience calls this limbic desynchronization. Your emotional centers quietly disconnecting from theirs. Your nervous system stops synchronizing with theirs. The tempo is off, the rhythm is gone. And this part is important. Your body never lies. Your body never manipulates, your body never sugarcoats. Your body just tells you the truth in soft, physical cues that feel like whispers. And once your body begins that quiet retreat, your communication naturally shifts too. You don't force depth anymore. You don't overshare. You don't chase the connection. You simply pull back. That's where the quiet goodbye begins. Now, let's talk about your brain for a minute because outgrowing people is not just emotional, it's neurobiological. The distance grows and you don't know why. You're not trying to change, you just are changing. Here's what's happening under the hood: identity shift theory. As you evolve emotionally, your identity becomes clearer. You know yourself better, what you value, what you want, what you will and will not tolerate. Relationships that were built on outdated versions of you no longer fit the updated version. It's like trying to fit iOS 18 into an iPhone 4. The software grew, the container didn't. Attachment reorganization. When you heal, you stop bonding through chaos, trauma, or constant crisis. You stop needing to be the fixer, the rescuer, the emotional manager. You start craving stability, reciprocity, emotional safety. So, relationships that still run on drama and instability start to feel loud, crowded, and heavy. Social emotional selectivity theory. Psychology tells us that as we mature, we naturally shift toward fewer, deeper connections. It's not that you hate people, you're just more intentional with your energy. You're not antisocial, you're efficient, you're selective, you're healthy. Cognitive load theory. Your brain has limited bandwidth. The older you get, the more responsibilities you carry: work, kids, healing, goals, rest when you remember to, high maintenance relationships. Your brain simply can't allocate resources to them anymore. You don't have the mental RAM for constant emotional reboots. The investment model. Subconsciously, your brain is always tracking: what am I giving here? What am I getting back? When the emotional return decreases on safety, respect, support, understanding, your brain gradually reduces its investment. You don't sit down and decide, I'm going to care less. You just do. Synaptic pruning. Your brain literally deletes connections it doesn't need anymore. Old pathways that support certain emotional habits or dynamics get pruned away when they no longer match who you're becoming. If the relationships feed patterns you've outgrown, your brain stops wiring around them. Nervous system regulation. When you were in survival mode, certain relationships felt normal. When you move into healing, those same dynamics now feel chaotic. Your healed nervous system doesn't tolerate emotional unpredictability the way your unhealed self did. Identity dissonance. This is when a relationship requires a version of you you've already outgrown. You feel it when you think, I don't recognize myself in this dynamic anymore. Your brain recognizes your relationship map. You don't want conflict, you want alignment. You'll notice you're outgrowing someone in small, almost invisible ways. It doesn't start with a big fight, it starts with tiny adjustments. Their chaos no longer entertains you. What once felt funny, spicy, entertaining now feels like emotional noise. Your nervous system quietly says, We don't do this anymore. You leave conversations drained instead of energized. It's not that they're a terrible person, it's that your dopamine has clocked out, where the connection used to give you excitement or comfort now leaves you feeling tired, overstimulated, or flat. And then comes the quietest, most powerful sign. You stop oversharing, not as a punishment, not to be petty, but as protection. Your spirit doesn't feel safe unloading the deepest parts of you in that space anymore. You don't decide it, you become it. This is when your spirit presses edit. You know you're outgrowing someone when you start talking less, not out of anger, but out of instinct. You stop giving people the full, unfiltered, five-star emotional buffet version of you, not because they did something horribly wrong, but because your soul knows this space can no longer hold your truth. It's like your inner world opens the emotional settings menu and scrolls down to edit access and switches it over to limited preview only. No announcement, no tantrum, no drama. No, we need to talk. Just a slow, intentional, graceful recalibration of what parts of you this person now gets access to. And here's the real breakthrough: this isn't coldness, this is self respect taking the wheel. This is spiritual maturity. This is emotional intelligence. That is growth that doesn't ask permission. And once the shift begins, everything becomes clearer. Your humor changes, the same jokes don't land, the same stories don't hit. You find yourself smiling politely at things you used to scream laugh at. Your growth changed your laugh. The conversation feels repetitive. You've evolved beyond the storyline, and the storyline refuses to evolve with you. You're talking in circles. You keep revisiting the same problems, the same patterns, the same drama, and your soul quietly says, I'm not here anymore. Those aren't signs of cruelty, those are signs of clarity. Let's talk about the quiet part. Quiet endings feel unfinished, especially if you grew up believing that everything needs a big speech or a dramatic final. But the truth is, quiet endings are often the most mature endings. Quiet goodbyes happen when there's nothing left to repair, there's no conflict to solve, the bond simply doesn't fit anymore. The energy has naturally run its course. You're not angry, you're just done. There's no villain, no betrayal, no big quote unquote final conversation, just understanding. The relationship has already ended internally long before it ends externally. It doesn't feel dramatic because nothing needs to be destroyed. It's quiet because everything has already dissolved. Now, we get to the part that keeps so many women stuck: the guilt. You feel guilty for needing space, for wanting less, for not showing up the way you used to. And you're not wrong for feeling that way. You were conditioned to. Most of us were raised to hold emotional responsibility, maintain connection, smooth over conflict, nurture other people's comfort, be available at all times. So when you grow and your needs change, your boundaries strengthen. Guilt shows up like, am I being rude? Am I being cold? Am I a bad friend, daughter, sister, partner? But here's what you need to remember: guilt is not truth, guilt is conditioning. These show women experience 28 to 30% more relational guilt Because we are socialized to prioritize everyone else's comfort over our own alignment. You grew up thinking your value was in your emotional availability, in how much you could carry, fix, hold, absorb. But your real value is your emotional alignment, in how honestly you live, in how truthfully you love, in how well you honor yourself. You're not doing something wrong, you're doing something new. And it feels uncomfortable the first few times. So, how do you honor a quiet goodbye without burning bridges or burning yourself out? You don't have to create drama. You don't have to be a ghost. You don't have to give a TED talk and call it, quote unquote, why I'm done. You honor a quiet goodbye by letting distance unfold naturally. You don't force closeness that your spirit has already released. Matching energy, not history. Past closeness does not require present access. You can honor what it was without forcing what it isn't anymore. Showing up authentically. No more performing an old version of you just to keep someone else comfortable. If the real you doesn't fit the dynamic anymore, that's your answer. Allowing the relationship to reshape itself. Some relationships won't disappear, they'll just shrink from daily to occasional, from confidant to acquaintance, from central to background. Let them. Not everyone loses their role. Some people just move roles in your life's theater, prioritizing peace over obligation, peace over nostalgia, peace over guilt, peace over old promises you made as a different person. You stop clutching chapters you've already outgrown. You end things like a grown woman with grace, clarity, and respect. Quiet goodbyes are not burning bridges. They're simply choosing not to walk across them anymore. Quiet goodbyes aren't cold, they're conscious. Quiet endings aren't failures, they're transitions. They're the soft thresholds where your spirit whispers, thank you for the chapter, but I'm turning the page now. And here's the truth, you're not losing people. You're meeting the version of yourself who no longer needs them. You're stepping into alignment, into truth, into maturity, into peace. Quietly, gracefully, beautifully. This has been the GB episode 3, The Quiet Goodbye, where impossible is just an opinion, and becoming who you are is always the loudest truth, even when the goodbye is silent. I'll see you in the next episode.